I'd like to welcome everyone tonight who's joining us on our second episode of RoundTable Discussions. It's a pleasure to have you all in the building. Thank you so much. The topic of discussion tonight is the return of sports during COVID. Before we get started, I'd like everybody to introduce themselves and let us know where you're calling from and what your favorite sports team is. So we'll start off with ourselves. My name is Jennifer Gordon.
I'm Jazz.
And we are the CEOs of OmniFan. We're from Brooklyn, New York, and our favorite sports team are the Knicks.
Clearly.
If you couldn't tell. Yeah, I guess we'll continue on, and we'll start with Mr. Gerard. Let us know where you're calling from. Gerard, can you hear us?
I'm first? Okay.
Yeah, you're first.
Gerard, Harlem's own, of course, Knicks fan, Giants, Yankees, and Rangers.
There we have it.
There we go.
Hopefully we can get something done soon.
All right, there we have it. Okay, next up, we're going to go to Mr. Eugene. Let us know where you're calling from and your favorite teams.
What's good? Gene Faison calling from Indianapolis, originally from New York. Knicks fan, Giants fan, Yankees fan. Ready to get this topic going.
Let's go.
All
Wonderful.
right, let's do it.
Okay, next up we'll have Mr. Ron.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ron from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, currently residing in the Bronx. Die-hard Knicks fan, die-hard Yankees fan. Let's get it.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll have Mr. James.
What's up, everybody? Zach James, Philadelphia, PA. Favorite teams in order: Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, Barrage, Soul, Union, anything with Philly in front of it. And since we got a lot of New Yorkers on here, I like the Nets too.
Oof. Okay. We won't hold that against you. No. And then next up we have Trisha.
Hi, I'm Trisha Joy. I'm host of One-on-One Card Chaos Live and NBA Trading Card Game Show. And I'm from Flatbush, Brooklyn. My teams are the Mets, the Jets, and OKC.
Okay.
Jets and OKC. Okay.
All right. And we have a new caller who just joined
That's
us.
Drew Green right there.
You have Drew. Are you connected to audio?
Look like he's in the process.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll give him 1 second to get set up. Let us know if you can hear us, please. Or maybe we'll wait. All right. We're getting some movement. Okay.
All right. Can you hear us, Drew? We can't hear you.
It doesn't look like he's muted.
Are you on, Drew? Are you unmuted? I don't think he can hear us. Okay, so we'll come back.
We'll come back to Drew. But yeah, I guess we'll, without further ado, introduce the topic. As we all know, globally, sports are making a reemergence slowly but surely. And in the US, it's no different. We have finally reached the point where sports are ready to make a comeback.
Right.
Ready or not, here we go.
Right. So just in terms of like leagues that are coming back, we have the PGA who started their first tournament today. NASCAR, they're having their first tournament this weekend. And we have the MLB who's set to have their season start around July 23rd, but there's a lot going on with them and a lot of players testing positive for Corona. So we'll see how that plays out. Then we have the NBA who's set to resume their season on July 30th. And going a little further down, we have the NFL who's trying to start their season around September 10th. So, we all miss sports. But the question is, how much are we willing to risk to have sports return?
Exactly. I mean, personally, our opinion is just that we don't feel that it's controlled enough or that we even know enough about this virus to resume sports. And then, I mean, as we all know, the cases are just rising nationally, specifically in the states that are set to host these bubble communities. So we just don't feel it's safe or controlled enough. But we're going to open up the floor, and the first person who'd like to start to give their opinion, just jump right in. Feel free.
Can you say the question the way you said it again?
Sure. The question is, what are we willing to risk, or how much are we willing to risk to have sports return in our lives? You know, like, so how much, how badly do we want sports back? Are we willing, are we willing to put the safety of the players and, the staff above, just our need or want for sports to return? Like, where do you fall in your thinking about that?
I'm gonna be real literal, like Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, okay, give it to us.
Said, what are we willing to risk? I'm not going to risk nothing. I'm not going to no games. Right. I'm not going to be in any bars watching the games with people. I'm not going to risk anything, but I can't wait to get some sports on TV. And it's going to be some of the most enjoyable TV watching I have done in the last handful of months. I hope that the leagues have the ability to keep the players safe. And I would assume with all the money and presumably smart folks they have making decisions that they can do that. But as long as I can watch on TV and I don't have to risk anything, I'm perfectly fine with it. And I hope things don't go bad.
Right. Well, yeah. The whole thing is that there are several things that could go wrong, because not only, yes, they're trying to keep players in this controlled environment that, they're going to have devices tracking their whereabouts and also their health. But there are other leagues that are not having these bubble communities, and they have players self-quarantine and staff self-quarantining. So they're going to be exposing themselves to their family members and loved ones who have not been, under maybe such strict precautions. So that just leaves so much room for error, so much room for transmission. And this thing spreads like wildfire, as we all know. And it kind of feels like, you don't understand the magnitude of it unless you know someone personally or it's affected you personally. But the fact of the matter is, this is a super serious virus, and there's just not enough proof to me that shows that it's worth the risk of putting players at risk, staff at risk, and then fans in some cases at risk.
Well, so that they have the bubble communities,
right? So
what do you guys think about the bubble communities? Do you think that they'll be effective in keeping the virus at bay, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, how effective do you think they're going to be? Anybody?
I think as fans, we want it to work because we want these guys. They're not essential workers, but we want them to be essential workers for the way we view sports. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We want them to be important as the guys on the front lines because we love sports that bad. The bubble in Orlando, I guess we won't know until they actually get there because, the NBA is doing their testing right now, and 9 more players came up positive today.
Yep.
So I want to say it's like 25 out of 325 they have tested. Mm-hmm. My wishing is I hope once they get down to Orlando, that once they get in the bubble, everybody abides by the rules because, there's always one that wants to go out and do their thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He's single or whatever, so he's going to test the waters, and he's going to be a Rudy Gobert, and he's going to be the guinea pig of everybody, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think we really know, but I think the NBA has the best commissioner in sports, and he's not gonna put these guys in harm's way just to make a buck. You know,
I agree with that.
Adam Silver is, by hands down, the best commissioner we have in sports, and I don't think he'll put these guys in harm's way. And I think the players, with Chris Paul, being the head of the NBA Players Association and all them guys, I think they put their faith in Chris Paul, put their faith in Adam Silver to make these decisions. So, I guess these guys are, they're gambling, so to speak, with their health.
Yeah.
But we've really never seen no marquee player, i.e. sick. We saw Kevin Durant sick, but he's not playing, you know what I mean? But we haven't no marquee, superstar, actually. Now, there was some Lakers back in when it first started that was unidentified. Could have been LeBron, but at the end of the day, I think we just have to wait till they get to Orlando and see.
Right. Even the commissioner himself, though, said that this is not, while they have these plans and they have like 100-page manual on how they're going to, enact all this protocol. However, he still maintained to this day that it's not 100% set in stone that play will in fact resume. Like these are the plans they are setting in place so that if all the factors are correct, and they're able to control things to a safe degree, then they'll resume play. But it's still not even set in stone. So it's something to just keep watching for sure. But,
right, and I also want to I just want to include Drew in on the conversation. I hope you got your mic situation all sorted out. Could you unmute yourself so we could test it out?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Test the 1,
yes,
2, 1.
We hear you. We hear you.
All right.
Wonderful to have you.
All right. Thanks for the invite, Zach.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you on. And the part that you just missed, we just like you to just tell us where you're calling from and what your favorite sports teams are.
Oh, well, I'm in Jersey City, but I'm from Brooklyn.
Okay.
I also for the Brooklyn Nets for about 13 years, so I got to represent them based on being an ex-employee. But I was a Knicks fan growing up. I still have Knicks fans in the building, and that's cool.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about basketball possibly coming back. This whole pandemic thing, I think, as the gentleman said prior to me, Adam Silver is the smartest GM or smartest commissioner in sports. And I think he's going to give it a go. But if somebody does come up, like one of the marquee players comes up with COVID and it gets a little crazy, I think they also will immediately shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that because they were asked, a lot of the commissioners have been asked, like, what will it take to shut it down? They haven't given exact numbers, about 5 players, 10 players. They haven't given any of that, but I agree. It would take a pretty marquee player or a sizable amount of players for them to say, we're gonna close the shop.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
In terms of the bubble, though, here's my thing. Is everyone who works at the bubble also confined to the bubble? Because if you got like people making
They
food
have to be.
and
yeah, so it's a process. I know specifically with the NBA, like, so when they arrive, they have to go through like 48 hours where they can't leave their hotel room, and within those 48 hours, they're given 2 tests, and they have to test obviously negative on both of those. Then there's like another week-long process, and then in the playoffs, they can finally start to have like some of their family come in. So it is a staggered process. And during the like the first, I think, 7 days, like the players are not supposed to like socialize with any other players unless they're outside. They have to order like delivery for food or room service. Like, so they're really trying to contain them until they get the green light, that they are not, that they're COVID negative. Right.
gotcha.
But there's also something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trisha.
So I think that this is really up to the players, honestly. It's easy for us to say whether or not they should play, but they also have bills, right? And so I think they're making life choices and life decisions because many of them are basically breadwinners for not only their household but their whole their whole family. Some of them, I don't want to make that assumption. About whether it could work, I'm not sure, but in my gut, I feel like the NFL is set up better for success because of 2 reasons. So the arenas itself, I think they're just more spaced than an NBA arena. It's like I don't know where they find that much space, but it's extremely like spacious in a football arena, which is a requirement, like social distancing. Even if they test negative, you don't want people on top of each other.
Right.
I think the NFL stadiums are set up to be that spacious. Although there are more players, I think that the one minor thing that we have to look at is like they wear helmets, and so the helmets can actually be fitted to stop I don't know if they're doing some mesh or whatever, but like it's all about covering the nose and the mouth, right? And so if they were to make any additional updates to whatever they wear to protect them, I think football, because the helmets are already there, are set up to you know, make it seem like regular sports, you know, like, you know, it won't be that much change.
It's more protected. They have more gear. They wear a lot more protective equipment, so that
Right.
they could modify some of the, at least the helmets, to, you know, mitigate some of the bodily fluid that's transferred, you know, during playing these sports, these high contact sports. But that also, while that might satisfy maybe like the NHL and the NFL, like sports that don't have any protective equipment, like basketball.
Right. I mean,
that's
yeah.
a hard one.
Right, because the
One thing
contact
about football,
that the players have, I mean, come on, it's an extremely high contact sport. So, you know, one foul and, you know, you're spreading.
I mean, they lick their hands when they touch the basketball. It's just like literally they have to kind of retrain themselves, you know, with a lot of the, even like their little pregame rituals that they do, and when they shoot free throws, you know, a lot of that entails them licking a finger or, you know, bodily fluid just touching their hands and touching the ball that the rest of the players on the court and the officials as well. And maybe even, well, for right now they would resume without fans, but when fans do come, you know, are allowed to come back into arenas, that could also be another issue as well. Yeah, it's just so loaded. But I do think, like you said, the outside arenas and stadiums do lend themselves to accommodating, you know, fans when they are ready to come back. But then it's about, you know, how many seats are they going to sell? You know what I'm saying? How full are these stadiums actually going to be? But, well, with the safety concerns, is there anybody else that has anything they want to add to the safety issue specifically? Because, I mean, we can go on.
Ron, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so referring back to the bubble community in Orlando, one thing they did mention was, like, you know, the families wouldn't be allowed to come in until like a certain amount of time. I think that's, you know, good. You know, they're trying to keep the minimal contact. And going earlier, I know you mentioned something about the rising number in cases. Well, you know, I've seen a lot of people, you know, not taking the right, you know, cautions out there. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, you know, I have faith in the commissioner, as everybody has spoke highly of Adam Silver, and as long as they, you know, keep the testing done, you know, keep the minimal contact to, you know, to a certain point, I definitely think that, you know, I look forward to having, you know, sports come back, you know, touching back to what I believe Trisha said, it's up to the players. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
exactly.
Right.
Ultimately, we agree with that point. Ultimately,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that kind of brings us to our next point about the players who are opting out. And we know that, you know, for a lot of the athletes in the leagues, you know, they've been trying to figure out the system, because a lot of the players are concerned about their safety and the safety of their loved ones.
Absolutely.
So, you know, they've put in place certain rules where if you're deemed high risk, your salary won't be your salary won't be affected. But if you voluntarily opt out, your pay will be docked. So what do you guys think about that? Zach, you want to take that? You're on mute.
Well, I'll say personally, you know, it's a tricky one, because obviously you need medical clearance, you know, to be deemed, you know, high risk. But when it comes to people's family members, I mean, we had Carl Anthony Towns, rest in peace to his mom. You know what I'm saying? They have players who have family members who are high risk, who they may live with, or, you know, like you said, support and be close to. So it's extremely concerning for these players, especially ones who have already been affected by COVID. And they do have also another exemption where you can be called excused. So I don't know exactly what the terms of what being an excused player holds, but I just feel like there's a lot of gray area when it comes to who is deemed medically, you know, cleared to not play, and who's excused from from playing. And then it's also these, you know, some of these players who have had season-ending injuries that have decided to sit out for the rest of the season, who are also going to be cleared and excused, but they're going to still be paid. And so that does, you know, pose a problem to the players who have less lucrative contracts than the ones who are, you know, just the lower man on the totem pole. They're just getting their career started. They don't have that financial security that some of the larger, you know, marquee players have. So that is definitely something that needs to be looked at. And I don't know who well, I guess Adam Silver and his team made these guidelines. But
you know, it's not just the NBA, it's the MLB. Also, they have very similar guidelines. So I guess the question is, the real question is, if the players voluntarily opt out, do you think that they should still be paid their full salary?
Well, I'll go with this one. With baseball, since the season hasn't started yet, and the guys that are opting out now, they're not getting paid. I guess it is what it is, since they're only playing 60 games anyway, if they actually do play the 60 games.
Right. If they actually get to play them, because they've shut down several spring training facilities in Florida and Arizona. You know, they were I think scheduled to resume spring training tomorrow for the MLB, and I just don't see how that's going to happen. I don't see it happening. So this will be interesting.
I honestly don't think the MLB is going to have a season. I don't see it.
Personally,
I don't see it.
We'll see.
Everybody take a vote. Who thinks the MLB season is going to happen?
Is there a I don't care about their season?
We have two votes. What was that? Did you give a hands up, Ron?
And Eugene gave a hands up.
Okay, Trisha.
Here's my thing regarding the financials of it. I try to relate it all back to normal life. So if you are a person who worked at a supermarket and COVID hit and you didn't want to be around all those people, but they were like, we're open, come to work.
Right, you had to work.
You decided, no, I don't want to. Should you still get paid from the supermarket? I mean, you're not going to get paid. You're going to get fired.
Right.
You can maybe there's an opportunity to go some unemployment, or maybe you can get some sort of assistance from the government. These folks, I don't know if players, because of their salaries, are eligible for those same sorts of assistance, but I do know that all the loans that us normal folk get turned down for, they won't. They will get it because they have the ability.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I don't think they should. I don't want to say I don't think they should get paid. I hope everyone gets their bag.
Right.
I don't feel some sort of way if a league's like, we're not going to pay you if you don't play. Okay, I wouldn't get paid if I didn't work, so I get it.
I think this season they are going to play for this reason. The last time baseball didn't play back in like '94, and I'm a little old head, leave me alone.
We're all heads.
The sport lost so
much
fandom. You know, they had that strike-ridden season back in '94. They lost so much fandom, and it almost had to resort to steroids and home runs, and for them to get fans back in their seats right now. You know what I'm saying? And like last thing for baseball fans was like, let the guys play, let them be, because baseball's trying to increase the popularity with the NBA and the NFL. You know, ethnically and minority wise, their percentages are low as far as black athletes in Major League Baseball, but they're trying to get their fandom up against the NBA and NFL. But it starts with their commissioner that they don't even respect. You know, baseball does not respect their commissioner. He's only been commissioner for 5 years, and the way that he handled this whole stoppage right now because of the corona was horrible.
Agreed.
I mean, first one day he'll say, "Yeah, it's 100% we're playing." 2 days later, he moonwalked that statement all the way back.
Yes.
Just for them to finally agree 7 days later, and a reminder, this is the same guy that called the World Series trophy a piece of metal in regards to the Houston Astros concept of cheating.
Yeah, controversy. Yeah.
So I think baseball has to have a season in order to keep their fans at a high percentage or where it's at right now. Because if they would have called the season off, it'd have been real ugly for baseball. And right now, it's just that's just my personal opinion. I think baseball has to be played, even if it is 60. It might be exciting now because it's actually it's a race from start to finish in baseball. Every game absolutely counts. So that's my take on the baseball season. I think that we will have a season for that reason.
Okay.
Right.
That's good. That's a good answer. Yeah, I mean, baseball has been one of those sports that's been kind of competing with like more, I would say, urban, more emerging, like newer sports. Obviously, baseball is one of America's pastime, so it's like a traditional sport that is a little slower, a little bit more boring. to some people. I don't want to say any baseball fans. I mean, go Yankees. But, you know, I totally understand that point of view and would agree to an extent that they probably they have the most haste in restarting their season. But in terms of doing it safely, I just don't see how they'll be able to do that, especially because they're not one of the leagues that's going to proceed in a bubble community. They're leaving it up to their players and staff to self-quarantine, and I think that's just ridiculous.
And real quick, I know I already touched on it real quick. They're kind of looking at what the Korean Baseball League is doing right now as well. Mm-hmm. They're playing, I mean, hell, we're even airing it on ESPN over here in the States at 5 in the morning just so we can get some kind of clarity of sports. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. None of their players have, not to we know, to our knowledge, have came up positive since they've been playing.
In the Korean League?
In the Korean League. Not that I know of, but
well, right. What though? They have a lot. I mean, in Korea, it's a lot more strict than we are here. The rules and parameters. I mean, they have so many guidelines that they have to live by. I mean, all of them I think are hooked up to like tracking devices to their phones. Like it's a lot more strict out there, so they're able to keep a much tighter.
The contact tracing.
Yeah, the contact tracing is just. It's
not
full effect there.
Yeah.
I mean, in Korea, they had testing sites all over the place. Like it was a thing. So while it might have been successful in Korea, the United States is a whole different model in terms of our behavior as a society. Like it's a completely different scale. Yeah. But that's But they're looking to that as a reference. But we just live by a whole different set of guidelines. So it'll be tough to mirror that.
Right. So let's switch gears a little bit. So we've talked about the safety concern of returning to sports, but let's talk about the moral aspect of it. If it's morally right to come back when we have the Black Lives movement soaring right now, and we know that certain players like Kyrie have been very, very vocal about this. So what's your take? Who wants to take the lead on that?
I guess. Well, maybe we'll even narrow it down to. What's your take on just the divide between NBA players? You know, we have on one hand, we have LeBron, who is completely, you know, we know he's all pro Black Lives Matter, 100%. He uses his platform and has been using his platform to spread social awareness about social injustice and police brutality for years, since Trayvon Martin, since the whole entire movement started. But he's been a proponent for continuing the season. He feels that he can share on his platform valuable information about the movement, as well as continue playing in the league. And then we also have Kyrie on the opposite end, who is, you know, he formed a coalition of I think it was 80 players or.
Well, yeah, he had a Zoom call with 80 players.
Right, with 80 players, which is only 20% of the league that actually showed up to his Zoom call to discuss not resuming the league because in wake of the social injustice in the country and in the climate of racial tensions in the country. And we said only about 20% of the league even showed up for that call. So what do you guys think about the divide between the players? Is it saying, what does that say? What do you guys think that's saying? Is it creating like tension between them, or what do we think? Who wants it?
Drew, you want to take it?
I'll take it.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna say I don't think it really causes tension. I think it just shows you that people are different, and I mean, just across the board, folks don't always disagree, even if they got the same occupation. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think it's more an element of some folks think a certain way, and they about, you know, carrying out their job and. Mm-hmm. You know, of course, wanting to win a championship, like they don't want to give up that opportunity, especially for the handful of teams that have a better chance of winning because of the season stoppage. And then some other folks whose, you know, priorities are different, whether it be they want to make a statement, whether it be they want to keep their family safe. Like everyone got different reasons. So I'm sure just because people are people, it's going to cause a little bit of beef in some of them locker rooms. Like there's definitely going to be some folks who are like, I need this bag.
Right.
And we can do this. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to cause like serious drama, but you saw what happened with, with Kendrick Perkins and with KD and Irving. Like those types of conversations are probably happening on an individual basis with some of these teams. So I don't know. It's part of life. You got to be able to deal with conflict and disagree and figure out how to still be a team afterwards.
Yes.
Right. So do you think, though, how do you feel about the sentiment that resuming sports will distract from the Black Lives Matter movement?
So here's my take on that. I don't think it's going to be a distraction. I think it can be a welcome addition, because now you're going to have all these microphones in your face talking about sports, and it'll give you a chance to voice your opinion on the social injustice. Like they're supposedly putting Black Lives Matter on the basketball court.
Right.
That's a step in the right direction. I mean, you had players wearing I Can't Breathe t-shirts back in the days, which caused a lot of attention. So I think it can work hand in hand. Like, okay, if we're going to play, I got something to say. So go ahead, ESPN, put the microphone in my face and watch what I got to say. Or Fox Sports. So it can be a win-win in some way, shape, or form. Like, I got something to say. I wouldn't really have a platform to say it because I'm not LeBron, but oh, you want to see what I did because I'm MVP of the game? Okay, by the way, I like the fact that this is what's going on. I mean, people are going to work, and like Zach said, people are going to have difference of opinions, but since we're all fiending for sports and everybody's going to tune in because everybody's quarantined and everybody's home, what bigger audience are you going to have to get your point across at this time?
That's a really good point. And actually, in addition to, I mean, obviously the NBA has become way more, I would say, forward thinking in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement. They're allowing players to put a social cause on the back of their jersey as opposed to their last name. So that's showing obviously a step in the right direction. And you do raise some good points that it's obvious it's creating a different platform, a larger platform for the message to be, to reach other people who wouldn't necessarily be for Black Lives Matter or even know about the movement. Well, everybody knows about the movement now, but or to feel attached to it. I guess on the flip side of that, it's just people, once they see sports resuming, the fear is just that people will kind of forget, they'll be able to turn the other cheek and then just kind of resume life as normal. Obviously, we have a new normal that we're living now, but it's just a slight fear of mine that things will get a little muddy and people will again go back to their couches with their beers, and whether you're a racist or not, because racist people they want you to shut up and dribble, so right. I think there is something to be said about disrupting the norm of sports, and which are predominantly played by black men. I think there's something to be said about disrupting that entire system until major social change is actually shown. But of course, as a sports fan, yes, I want to see sports played again. But I'm kind of in the middle of the road here. I mean, I was also what makes me cautious in terms of saying to completely stop sports or not resume. It's just that is the fact that a lot of players will not be getting paid during that time. So that's something that would have to be figured out as well. But there's something to be said when you disrupt billionaires' pockets. They want to make things go back, and maybe there's some actual change would take effect.
Right. Now, I just want to pause and take the time to introduce somebody new that's joined the call. We have Mr. Jeffrey Montague, who is actually one of my most influential mentors that I had at Temple when I was there for undergrad. And it's a pleasure to have you on. So thank you so much for joining us. And Zach also is another one of Jeff's alums. So thank you for joining. And yes, of course, we'd love to know what you think on this topic about, the Black Lives Matter movement and sports and resuming.
Does that go to me or does that go to Zach?
Yes, it goes to you. Oh, and actually, so when we had everybody start, we had everybody let us know where you're calling in from and your favorite sports teams.
I'm calling in from, I'm actually in New Jersey, although I'm a person born and raised in Philadelphia. So New Jersey's hot. New Jersey is what it is. Right. I am, in terms of a favorite team, I'm a Philadelphia guy. So I'm a season ticket holder for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
And obviously I follow the Sixers. I also follow limited in scope the Phillies and the Flyers.
Okay.
So, and then the fifth professional team is the Philadelphia Union, which is soccer.
Okay.
But I follow them whenever I possibly can. But that would be the least of my attraction.
Philly through and through.
Right.
Love it. So Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, do you have an opinion on the Black Lives Matter movement as it relates to sports?
As it relates to sports, I have an opinion on Black Lives Matter.
Well, right.
I'm not quite sure how it connects with sports in its way, except that a lot of professional athletes have joined on the bandwagon. Because I personally feel that the NFL and Roger Goodell left Colin Kaepernick hanging.
110%.
Agreed.
So 3.5 years ago, when they should have stood up with him, they did not, including some players. Although Malcolm Jenkins from the Philadelphia Eagles stood up. And understand that as a Philadelphia Eagles season ticket holder, I was standing in the stands with my fist raised, and I can tell you I sit in a fairly decent seat, I must say. And there's nobody of color around me at all. No one. So I actually had a couple of people that are non-minority, to be politically correct, come down and say, "You're really a brave guy. Like, that was a brave move." And I'm saying, what's so brave about it? But it was because they did not think that people that sat in that section would be militant enough to support the cause. So Black Lives Matters, I'm a member, I've joined, I've donated, I have the app, I'm part of the movement.
Yes.
But I think athletics itself should have joined on with Colin Kaepernick 3.5 years ago. So I personally am disappointed in what they've done as an OG. I mean, I'm in the fourth quarter. I'm 66 years old, Jazz. Stop. Okay.
Looking amazing. You're glowing. It must be that glow.
So I think the league now all of a sudden they have all the young people speaking up, and now they want to give Colin Kaepernick an opportunity. When instead of the word that they use, they whiteballed Colin Kaepernick.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
And now they're saying, "Come back."
Right. So what do you think of that hypocrisy, though? You know, like, clearly, I personally, they're just doing it now because, you know, their hand is being forced. 100%. We thought it was being forced before. I mean, now it's really being forced. So it's not genuine.
Well, it was definitely not genuine. And Jay-Z is kind of somebody who kind of spearheaded, Goodell into being a little bit more open-minded, so to speak, about, understanding where Black people and their players are what they're actually protesting. So it's definitely a pseudo statement that they put out, in my opinion, our opinion. And for us, I guess the real way to show that that they recognize what was actually done 3 years ago to Colin Kaepernick and continues to be done is a formal apology, and then to obviously, they have to create some kind of reform. And I know that they're, they have their hands in all kind of reform programs right now.
Right.
But they need to employ that man. If he still wants to, come back. I mean, really, they should start. I mean, I know it's really hard to start your own league, but I mean, Ice Cube did it with the Big Three, so I think that there can be something that is birthed as a result of the situation.
Yeah, and I believe Kyrie, he brought that topic to light as well, and he brought up the idea of having a Black-owned basketball league. So does anybody else have anything else to add to this? Or any other opinions on this topic?
Well, I think if they bring Kaepernick, or Kaepernick chooses to come back, whichever way that works, he's gonna be probably in like some kind of front office or NFL corporate working in like diversity, because you also have to factor in whether or not he can be game ready, and he's been out for a number of years now. So to take hits with that sort of impact and being out for a while is kind of like, ugh. He's been training, but I don't know if he's done impact work. So that's
right. That's one part of it.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Going back to your question about like the players playing for the NBA and not playing, my whole thing with that is, I think you can contribute to your cause. There are other ways to contribute to your cause other than saying I'm not going to play. You get Kyrie Irving one end of the spectrum, and Kyrie was already injured. He couldn't play regardless.
Right. He's going to get paid regardless.
Right. He's going to get his money. And then you get people like LeBron James, like everybody's saying like, oh yeah, maybe it's a little selfish. He wants to win a championship, but look at the things that, LeBron James has brought to light, and look at how he's, used his platform, talking about, the injustices that's going on from years behind. I look at the ESPYs of 2016, and there was a big moment with LeBron James, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade.
That moment was
powerful.
Yes.
That was a big moment. That was a powerful moment. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's I'm learning things that I can do today that I didn't know of how I can help contribute to the cause at the end of the day. So I think just saying I'm not going to play, you can use your platform in other ways, just saying I'm not going to play.
I agreed. Like I said, I agree with that, and I do think that players have successfully used their platforms while continuing to play their sports to, further the cause. My whole thing was just disrupting billionaires' pockets makes change happen faster.
Trisha, I see you unmuted.
Yes, I got a question.
Okay.
So, sorry if this is like a controversial statement, but I don't know who, I don't know if everybody in the panel supports or is pro what Kyrie was saying about creating a new league, a black owned, like what was specifically, what did he say?
It was a black owned league that he was pushing for.
So he's pushing for a black owned league, and some people are on it now, right? But LeVar Ball tried this, and then a lot of people weren't on his side, right? And so I'm wondering if we are like situational in our own support.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
Because I mean, he was trying this, right? And then there was a lot of, he's in his child's career too much. He's too loud. He's like, we made a lot of excuses as to why we weren't able to support him when he first pitched that idea a couple years ago. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And as a matter of fact, obviously LeVar Ball is not the most desirable person when it comes to the way he delivers things. His delivery leaves a lot to be desired. However, I was always
you were.
I was always a supporter of LeVar Ball, because it's not every day that you see a father that is that involved in his children's dreams. And obviously, yes, he was an ex-basketball player himself, but I applauded the fact that he was involved in his children's careers, and also what he was trying to do in terms of being more inclusive to just Black players, and keeping it, and recycling the money, so to speak. Like I said, a lot gets lost in LeVar Ball's delivery. He's a very abrasive guy. He doesn't really care who he offends. And on one stage, I get that. And I appreciate that, because like we shouldn't have to care about being super politically correct, anymore. However, there's just a lot, you have to deliver yourself, and your intention has to be heard without you being so emotional all the time. And I feel like LeVar Ball gets caught up in his emotions, and it detracts from what his actual intent is. Yeah. So that's what I think. I think that's where the disconnect between even just Black people and LeVar Ball came from, just in the fact that they just don't like how he delivers himself, how he presents himself a lot of the time. It's abrasive. But I did understand the bigger what he was trying to push.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so I think LeVar Ball to many people might be a pain in the behind, but he is an African American male that decided to test the market.
Yes. Yep.
He decided to push marketing at a level that most people would not, did not, have not. So
Right.
the fact that I may not like his bravado
Right.
doesn't mean that he isn't a genius in his own way. They've made millions of dollars off of it. I do think that he has marketability. He just doesn't know when to stop himself.
Right.
So when I want to go back to what Trisha was saying about a black NBA, black owned NBA, even though Curry wants to do that, you got to start from a different level. I think all these professionals, well, all these very talented black athletes, black and brown athletes, should go to HBCUs.
Yes.
Start at HBCUs to build the trend, see what that'll do, then develop a black NBA. Because the NBA is so powerful. They have so much money that they don't care about anybody's anything. So you got to go to NBA, and you got to go to the black college route before you move to the next level. That's my opinion.
And that's a trend that's starting as well. There's a big prospect that chose over all these Division I, highly rated Division I schools. He chose an HBCU. So I think that, at least I'm hopeful that that's going to be a new trend. So yeah, to what you were saying, Jeff, I agree. Okay, anybody else want to contribute to the BLM in sports convo, or else we can move on a little? Okay. So in terms of, well, we're speaking morally, but obviously, with play resuming, there's going to be a lot more testing, being done on players.
Right, every day.
And with cases rising nationally, I know back in March, April, and May, we had a whole issue with testing not being readily available.
Not having enough tests,
and who was deemed testable, or who qualified
high risk
to be
enough to be tested.
Who qualified to be tested. Now, I think there's going to be we're going to see another shortage in testing kits as the rise continues. So, do we think that it's fair for sports players, for athletes, to receive this priority testing, even if they're not sick?
Right. While people are in areas where they really need the testing, can't get them,
or may not be able to get them potentially. Do we see a moral issue with that, or do we just think like, okay, well, they're athletes, they're driving the economy, they need their essential workers, so it's okay?
I think there's a moral issue, but I don't think it's a moral issue any different than what medication has been in terms of it being a moral issue in the past. It's in the forefront now. Medication has always been too expensive, and the people who need it typically can't get it. So, the fact that it's a little bit more in the front line of conversation makes us talk about it, but it still isn't really any different than what's been going on. And quite frankly, it's can you pay for it? Like, they can afford it, so they're able to go get it. I mean, that's the downside to this country is, money rules. And if you can afford what you want, you get it. So that kind of sucks, but because you can afford it doesn't mean you shouldn't spend it because other people can't. That's just how this country works. So, I mean, I would love there to be some sort of element where, let's say, if they're paying for these 300 and some tests for these players, that they also buy another 10 times that amount for the local community of Florida, or for, people in the cities where they play at. Like, if they could do something like that, I think that would at least give it a better optics. But the fact is, they're telling you about it. Like,
right? No, they're upfront with it. It's not, under the table. They're being very transparent.
Except for the fact that, at this point, right now it's not an issue. But if cases continue to rise, the way they rose in New York, testing will not be available to these people. So, what deems these athletes more important to receive the testing? It's not about, I don't even think it's about money, because when the average person
Go to the phone, turn it off. Okay, thanks.
So, doing COVID testing. I mean, the drugs to, the medicine to help heal you, that's what's not free. But the actual testing itself is, I believe, free now.
Yeah.
It wasn't before, but it's free now. So I kind of just think that this is something that we'll have to watch and see how controlled the testing is, and if we've kind of, I guess, crossed the point of not having the quantity to satisfy, the cases that need to be tested. But I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that goes.
Right. Anybody else want to chime in on that? No? Okay. So we are going to keep moving along, and so we're going to talk about
this is the last.
Yeah, the last topic of the night.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the future of sports and what that actually looks like. So we touched a little bit earlier on fans being allowed into the stands. So, it seems crazy that some teams and leagues would even be considering that at this point, but there are some teams that are selling tickets to events. And so the MLB, they're one of obviously the major leagues. And so they're doing something where, and it's in their manual, that they will allow fan attendance, but at the approval of local authorities. And certain governors, I believe the governor of Texas, they expect like half capacity at all sporting events. And so, I mean, to us, that just seems crazy. And when you think about packing stands in, even at half capacity, you think about how fast the virus spreads. One person catches it, and then it can literally spread like wildfire within, that's why they've been limiting, gatherings,
to 5 to 10 people.
Right. So when you talk about the conversation of introducing sports back into, the arenas, I mean, we just don't feel comfortable with it
at all. Not at this stage.
Would anybody feel comfortable going to an arena?
I'm on the front lines, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
Especially with the baseball. It's like, okay, what are we going to have thermometers at the fans' heads, checking their temperature before they come in?
It will be. Yes.
I just see it being a complete disaster. I mean, I don't think they're ready for that yet. They need more time before they allow fans to come back into arenas and stadiums. They need more time. They need more plans. They need answers before they go forward with anything. If not, you're going to be putting more people at risk, and it seems like there's going to be no end to this anytime soon.
Agreed. And then but what is sports without fans too? So that's like a major, I guess, argument for these teams, these leagues. They're, fans are at the top. We feel at the top of the totem pole when it comes to organizations. We are the driving force between all of the money that's, distributed between, throughout these leagues. So
right. And speaking about the money, I know with the MLB specifically, part of the reason why they went so long to get a settlement was that how do they mitigate, not having fans in the stands and still paying the players? So I know that was a major part of the discussion.
Yes.
So I want to, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm probably one of the more optimistic people about this era.
Good. It's good to have, you need the optimism.
Right now it's a terrible time, and all the scientists are trying to figure out as much as possible how we can interact with each other. That overlays with how close we can get to each other. That overlays with like the fans and how the distance that they have to sit and operate and walk in arenas. Mm-hmm. But I think that Corona, which is a terrible thing, lends to some amazing other steps forward in terms of fandom, and will be able to allow more avenues of revenue streams within the sports that I think that we need to prepare for. Number one, I think that Corona is going to accelerate the speed at which we produce and the technology of VR. So Oculus,
yes.
All those technologies are going to accelerate to be first to market, because once the Oculus or whenever those devices become present and ready and manufactured at a price point that people can afford, we won't have to go to games. right? And so like all the I think Facebook owned Oculus. I can't remember, but like these technology like companies are racing to be able to provide different access to seeing the games, right? We already have those cameras that go laterally in all different dimensions across the court. Imagine selling access to that vision. Imagine selling access to a certain seat vision and then a camera vision, right?
Yeah.
They can open up revenue streams or packages to seeing in the locker room, which was only like a media thing, right? Or if you had special tickets or you had VIP, now they can sell access, virtual access to locker rooms, virtual access to pregame, sort of like a Patreon sort of thing where you get exclusive visuals that we didn't have access to, right? And so to me, I think that once we get this through this initial year, and they can evaluate the technology that's out there and the opportunities to charge for access from our homes, they will get that money and they'll be able to pay them 300 times, right? So I'm just optimistic at the gas or the pressure that Corona brings to the acceleration of technology, and Ticketmaster, Vivid Seats, all these, they're going to be able to sell packages to different views, and the money will come, you know?
Right. No, there are definitely going to be unique opportunities. I mean, even we've already started to see it now, that Corona has it's been by necessity,
right,
just emerged as a result. So there will definitely be opportunities, and there are blessings within Corona. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've all hopefully gotten to learn a little bit more about ourselves during this entire process. So I do agree with your point, Trisha, 110%. That there will be unique opportunities to generate revenue within these leagues.
And those opportunities are going to create problems. See, because those opportunities aren't going to they're going to be just like it is now, the haves and the have-nots. So if you've got opportunity to charge to see a game, I'm already paying $285. I don't have a damn Fire Stick. Excuse my damn. But I don't have a Fire Stick, right? So I'm paying $285 a month for Comcast cable.
Right.
And I'm paying for my tickets to go to the Eagles game. If they're going to charge me more for a sports package,
right,
at this point, I'm out. Because, and it's not that I'm a have-not, I'm a have. But what it's going to do is create more of a digital divide. The minority people aren't going to be able to afford it, and then the majority is going to be able to afford it. Just like when I moved from the Veterans Stadium with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we moved into the Lincoln Financial Field, I had to pay a seat license for my ticket, which cost me $3,500 for the purpose to even get my season ticket, which is $1,300 a year.
Wow.
So if I have to purchase a package to see a game, I'm going to have to get a Fire Stick or find somebody to do something under the table. Because I think it's going to price people out. If anybody on this call has got a hookup, give a brother a call.
So Jeffrey,
I know a guy.
You know a guy? I'm all in. Come on,
Jeffrey,
Knicks fan, I'm in, man. Let's do this, Jerron.
I would argue that there is already a divide in the have or have nots, because I can't pay $3,500 like you.
Absolutely.
Like I can't go to it. You sit close to a football game, a football field.
All right, don't hate now. Don't hate.
You know,
come on, Trisha, don't hate.
Like, listen, I think it gives an opportunity for the people that didn't have to actually, you know, be able to have the same experiences that you did. Right? So that's just me, you know.
Right.
My thought is, even
that's something to be said about both points.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
I think
Jack, you had something to add?
Yeah, because I think my original thing is that I don't think Corona's bringing this on at all. I think it accelerates it, but there's been a consistent push amongst all front offices and all sports to figure out how do we get people to actually engage with our games because folks are already going to TV. Folks aren't buying tickets as much. So that whole creating Oculus opportunities and you can feel like you're courtside through technology, they were on that wave already. That was going to come.
No, what I'm saying is it has been accelerated. Because,
well, yeah, that's what I said. I said this accelerates
yeah.
it, but it doesn't stop the fact that it was going to happen anyway.
Right, exactly.
So that divide of how you're able to get, you know, how you're able to consume, they're going to constantly come up with ways to make you consume more. Yeah. Just like sports betting is part of that added consumption of sports. So yes, we're going to be getting the technology a little quicker because of Corona, but it was still going to come anyway. So it's not really changing the game a ton other than just speeding up the need for it.
Come on, Trisha, don't yield. Don't yield.
No,
Trisha.
but that,
listen,
that statement alone is concerning because we're talking about billions. You're saying we were eventually going to get billions, but they get billions now. Like if I'm invested in that field, like it did accelerate my money. It made my bank account bigger faster.
You're talking about as a team?
As whoever are the powers that be that oversee how the collection of the money in that arena, like they are the ones that profit earlier, right? And I don't think they're gonna, I don't think they were like, yeah, we were eventually gonna get another 17 billion, like they're gonna get it now. So I wouldn't blow it off as something like, yeah, this was gonna happen anyway. Like the NBA lost 17 billion, right? What was it? 17 billion in revenue,
in ticket sales and revenue, just in revenue.
Yeah. I'm not sure on the exact number, but
yeah. But like I said, like this, like there are umpteen ways to make money off of off of people digitally, and like, listen, we need to get ready for this because it like I said, it's going to close the gap, it's going to accelerate, it's going to get new, I want to say more jobs, more interest in being able to, like, I guess tap into that, and yeah, like, so that's just me being optimistic. I think sports becomes digital, players are going to have to figure out how to play without fans. The one thing that I worry about, well, not worry because it's not my money, but like Golden State just built a brand new stadium.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are people who have invested in this now. It's going to be antiquated, right? Soon you can play a game in a high school gym, right? And because you'll have 18,000 unlimited tickets. Right. You don't even have 18,000. Right. You can have 900,000 people paying to see this game. Right? So,
I think that'll be good. I think that's speaking off more of a fan's perspective, because when this pandemic actually started, a lot of the players were actually putting money into the arenas, into their stadiums, because of the actual, because the employees were losing money, they were losing their jobs, and so if all these sports do go digital, I mean, what happens to the employees that was working at Madison Square Garden, that was working at the Link, that was working, and you got to think about in the NFL, they're going to lose over $3 billion if no fans attend this season. And you also got to think about, you're saying Golden State just built a new arena. What about the new arena out there in Vegas for the Raiders, who haven't even played a game yet? So as a fan perspective, I understand that point about how, sports may go digital and all that. But as an employee perspective, like working at these arenas, you're not gonna go back to work for that because you're going digital.
Right. I would say the worst part of Corona isn't even that, but the fact that because of health precautions, that libraries and other places are kind of limited, because the other unfortunate digital dynamic of Corona, not just for arenas but everywhere else, is that many lower level jobs or jobs that require like support, whether it's like restaurants or retail, will be automated and or cut out because of safety, right? So the downside to this is that people will be forced to have to change their line of work. And that's not even just oh, I'm a fan, I love digital. It's like, no, they don't even want people to have contact with each other. So, you know, that is unfortunate. I don't know how many people in jobs in that field and jobs in general have access to the tools to be able to learn in what 4 weeks. I mean, everyone's looking for jobs right now, but they will a lot of people in those fields will have to make an adjustment and a switch to another job that isn't automated or cut out because there's no contact, right? So, you know, that's not just arena.
Let me just say, Trish, Trisha, you are speaking my language because you are speaking innovation, okay? So innovation and creativity is the way that we have to go, which brings us right back. I'm a former professor and a former dean of a school. So I'm speaking from an academic perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Innovation is the greatest thing ever, right? So essential employees will be no longer when it comes to sports. Mm-hmm. So we can't talk about, well, we can. Those people will lose their jobs. Those people have to reinvent themselves. Yeah. Those people have to be innovative. Those people have to be taught by me, which I don't, Jasmine, Zach. But Jasmine and Zach, you should be and Trisha, you got to teach innovation. Yes. Because innovation is the way that it is. It's not the same. You know, when I first bought Eagles season ticket, I had a printed ticket. Mm-hmm. Then I had to print my own ticket. Then now I use my phone. Your phone. Right. Right. Yep. So innovation is what's going to be next. So if we don't teach, and in particular, Black and brown folks about innovation and how to get to the next level, Trisha's absolutely right. They're going to lose the jobs, and you know the owners don't give a crap. Right. They're going to make their billions off of TV rights and fire sticks and everything else. Right. But our people are going to lose out.
Right. Like, you know, some of the teams were covering, you know, salaries for, you know, a couple of months, but after those couple of months are up, what do they do now? Now, I would like to pivot to Jerron, who works at MSG. So I just want to know, like, you know, about, you know, your experience and, you know, I'm sure that you could, you know, add something to this conversation here.
Wait, does that explain why he has on Knicks paraphernalia?
There are quite a few.
So does Ronald. You know,
there's a lot of
what's up, Eugene, and you Omni fan women. You know, like I got a problem with what's going on here. Just so you know.
Us Knicks fans
Look at this. Oh, come on. All right, I'm sorry, Jerron. I'm gonna let you go. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not even listening to you. Philly, baby. I'm sorry. Look, Thunder. Come on, OKC. Come on.
Jasmine, what was the question again?
You're killing me. Oh, God. All right, go ahead, Jerron. I'm going to let you go now.
Jasmine, what was the question again?
No, just what, you know, on this conversation of, you know, employees that work at arenas and what, you know, your future and your, you know, your fellow coworkers, what, you know, what your future looks like.
You know what? As of this moment right now, talking to you guys, I have no idea.
Yeah. Wow. Good point.
I really don't know. We don't know what's coming back. We don't know when it's coming back. I don't think I'm going to be back at MSG to probably 2021, to be honest with everybody.
Right. I think that's probably
and one thing actually on top of that too, for folks that are working in arenas, sports is like 20%.
Right. The concerts.
Right. Concerts and special events. Right. That's the stuff that, again, no one's even talking about coming back. Yeah. Like Disney on Ice is on ice. Like,
right.
Like that's the stuff that's really going to impact a lot of these employees. So there's bigger conversations than even just sports when it comes to
absolutely.
Yes. The
effect of COVID is out of this world.
And they just recently shut down the Broadway shows until 2021.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, that's happening. I was like, well, ain't nobody gonna be singing and dancing at the Garden no time soon.
And a lot of people at this time are digging deep and, you know, doing some real soul searching, because this is the time now when, like, as Jeff said, you're forced to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
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 Innovation is the wave.
Innovation is the wave. And you know, the mental health, because a lot of people are feeling down about this wave. And I want to add that level, or that layer, because you know, we can want to innovate, but like we have to get in a mindset that is positive, that says like we can do this, which is why, like I said, I'm going to be the one positive one, because it's almost like you have to brainwash yourself into believing, well, I'm gonna get ready. I love my current like job, but just in case it doesn't come back, I'm going to learn, you know, XYZ. Like, for instance, I don't know anything about, I like technology. Y'all know that.
Right.
But I didn't know anything about sales, right? So it's like, how do I package myself so I can create a job or sell myself into a situation right now, right? So I think rather than just wait and see, I think we have to be very aggressive about our own lives right now and say, what is our fallback plan? If I can't get my job A, like what would I really want to do?
Right. Absolutely.
And then like start like step by step, like acquiring the skills, like looking at YouTube. There's plenty of videos on YouTube.
Preach, Trisha.
Yeah, plenty of there are free workshops online. Harvard, I think Harvard was giving free workshops at one point in the beginning of COVID, right? I think we need to.
Well, they were offering classes probably at a reduced cost.
Right. So while we wait for our dream jobs, and you know, I know a lot of people that are on Broadway. I do like comedy and sketch and all that other stuff too. Stage is my thing. Like I'm looking at plan B. I'm figuring out how can I do my own things digitally. Like how can I sell myself into people seeing me by myself instead of on stage, right?
Right.
Everybody has to just do that real quick, and while they wait, get those skills, because you can just pivoting is the key, right? Be able to pivot and not like let something bad like stop you from getting that money, like, you know. So
bet on yourself.
Cross those bridges and
bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Yes.
Bet on yourself.
I think that's a perfect closer. The moral of this conversation is obviously there's a lot more information. There's a lot of uncertainty, but what we know is that we are the keepers of our own destinies, and we are the future. We are the wave for the future, and our minds are what's going to carry us there. So there is obviously a future for sports. We don't know what that actually looks like, but we're creating it as we go. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. It was, I mean, this was such an enlightening conversation. I'm grateful for all your input and opinions. And thank you for joining us for OmniFans Roundtable discussions. We'll be coming to you with a new episode very soon, so look out for us. Have a wonderful night, and thank you guys again. Stay safe.
Thank you.
And we love you
Good
all.
night, guys.
Family now.
Be safe.